But I wanted to make you aware of what's in the president's budget, and it's all massive increases in taxes. I think the two biggest things that are going to impact small business owners is if any of you sell tangible goods and you've been taking the research credit, this was baked into the law when it was passed, I think in 2018, that research credits are now spread over 5 years and you can't take them in 1 year. So that's a really big one. The other big one that's a proposal, now we don't know if any of these proposals are going to get through. The Republicans do control Congress by 5 votes, not Congress, the House rather. And the other one that's really big is Biden wants to put the Medicare tax on sub-S, LLC, and partnership distributions, where currently that's not happening. You know, you take your salary and then you get a distribution. The distribution part's not being taxed. But the game plan is to have 87,000 IRS agents, and the new commissioner of the IRS testified he's committed to make that plan happen, where people pay their fair share, which pretty much means everything. So I've got his latest proposals on a slide. I want you to be aware of them. I also want you to be aware that part of the inflation or stagflation playbook is for you to do things that lessen your taxes. And there's quite a few things that you can take advantage of that, particularly in an inflationary environment, can soften the tax flow. So take a look at what's in the proposal. They're not new. They've been proposed before. Hillary Clinton's proposed them. But they are really large tax increases because this government can't get enough money. And now with banks failing and them wanting to have this new social budget where they do much more domestically, in essence, they're cutting defense because they're increasing the defense budget less than the inflation rate. And they want to get it all out of you. And just realize that even though they say they're not going to get money from people who make less than $400,000, it doesn't mean they can't. And the long history of the IRS is that 73% of what they do through audit and collections comes from people who make less than $200,000. Why is that? Because people that make more can get lawyers and good accountants, and delays it for many years. It defeats it altogether. So anyhow, take a look at what's being proposed, and then we'll sum it up. Okay, so this is what's being proposed. This is part of our taxes, usually the number one problem with small business owners. So they want to move the top individual tax rate up to 39.6. If you make more than $200,000 as an individual or $250,000 as a married couple, you're going to add on the Obamacare 0.9% add-on for Medicare. They want to raise the corporate tax rate up to 28% from 21%. You know, it was dropped to 21% to be competitive with China. China's 25%. This administration and the Democrats seem just hell-bent to make sure that we are at a competitive disadvantage with China. Remember, everything's measured on an after-tax rate of return. The higher your tax rate, the lower your after-tax rate of return. So now we're a 3-point disadvantage to China on a large company. That's a lot of money. Taxing capital gains at 39.6% from 20%. Really, the progressives just hate capital, hate income from capital, hate anything that doesn't come from labor, particularly union labor. And they just really want to crank that capital gains tax, which really, a big reason why it's 20% at the maximum rate is inflation. You know, if you own an asset for a long time, a big chunk of that gain isn't real, it's inflation, but they don't want that. Then U.S. companies' foreign profits, they want to double that. That right now there's a tax if you repatriate the foreign profits, it's 10% on top of whatever you paid in the country you made it. They want to double that to 21%. This is the really big one for most small business owners. They want to start putting the Medicare tax, because Medicare is in trouble, on distributions. In other words, it's always everything's nibbling, where they're always going to add a little bit to where it's taking most of it. Just like in the video clip that started this post off. So there you have it. We don't know that any of them are going to get through, because the Republicans do control the House, and they vowed no new taxes. And in fact, the Republicans want to roll back the $80 billion that's been given to the IRS to hire 87,000 IRS agents who are going to come after you to get all these things. But I don't know how they're going to do it, because the Democrats control the Senate, and Biden's the Democrat president, and he'll veto it. So more than likely, these things aren't going to happen. The one that is going to happen is the one I mentioned before, is research credits are going to be spread over 5 years. So if you've been using that, you're going to pay a lot more this year. And as I mentioned before also, there are many methods that you can use, and we have the stagflation playbook that you should be using anyway that will help you dampen any increase in taxes, particularly during an inflationary period. So there you have it. There's what's on the table, and we all have to hunker down, because if it goes through, you'll be paying a lot more. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Oh, by the way, you can subscribe to the link in my newsletter that's on the post here, where I have all of these things put together so you can stay up on the latest.